Well, Metro's back, and today we got another topic to discuss. All right, man, here we go. Mythic dungeons. All right, about 2 months ago now, I made a video on why I thought Mythic dungeons were not going to be well received. A few topics that I want to bring up today. All right, first thing that I said at the time was that Mythic dungeons were not going to satisfy people because I figured the difficulty was either going to be so extreme that nobody would do them, or it would just not be difficult at all. But I was actually wrong with that, all right? So that's the first thing we're going to talk about, and I'm going to tell you why, okay? So when this is challenge mode footage that you're watching right now, all right? So just don't worry about that. But when you see me do challenge modes, you'll see how much, how tanking works. It's all spike. It's all like rotation of CDs, otherwise big spike damage. And you're seeing this now in these 5-man Mythic dungeons. People simply don't know how to tank them, okay? So, in my opinion, the original issue I had was that I figured it was going to be, the bosses were going to be very difficult to get through, and, you were going to need specific, I don't know. But the point is that I actually feel it's done perfectly, because all it takes is one good player to overcome all these issues. And the issues people are having with the dungeons are related to their own inadequacies, unfortunately for them. But when I said that, people remember 5-man dungeons being difficult because, things like you had to CC mobs, right? In TBC and Classic, you had to CC mobs. Well, guess what? You had to CC mobs not because the dungeon was difficult. It's because tanking was bad. Being able to tank in Classic meant control, not survivability. And it was all about threat. It was literally all about threat. 100% of tanking was threat. So the less mobs you had to tank, the less threat you needed to worry about. So for example, this pull we just pulled here, this 4 pull, right? We'd probably CC all 3 of the skull guys if we can and just kill the caster, because I wouldn't actually be able to get threat on all 4 of the mobs as a warrior tank. Well, that you don't need to CC these mobs now. You know what I mean? Because I have CDs to get, I have good AoE threat and CDs to get through them. But the reason people still want to CC in these 5-mans, right? The reason Mythics are not a failure on this grounds is because people still don't actually know how to tank in the current model. They'll have threat, but they'll just get crushed. And then they say like, oh, it's just way too difficult. They hit too hard. Well, that's not actually true. You're just not playing your class properly. And that's the same issue I have with the DPS part, right? I figured the DPS requirements were going to be, I didn't think they were going to be how they are, right? But people CC because the tank dies because they do bad damage, right? That's the issue. So I come in here and I use good CDs to survive as a tank. The DPS actually do good damage. Nobody knows how to do good AoE. That's the big issue. The community is just not skilled for 5-man content. And that's the reason, the game has gone in this direction. It's not necessarily just the community's fault, but the game has gone in this direction so heavily that nobody actually knows how to do 5-mans. People have done the heroic dungeons, but they don't actually know how to do good damage. Like, I'm watching hunters do, fucking 11k on 5-6 pulls. The pulls of 5 and 6. Are you kidding me, man? BM can do like 100k burst AoE. So, yeah, that's the #1 reason why I actually really, really, really enjoy how Mythic dungeons were implemented. In fact, it's even better than I expected, honestly. I did not expect it to be this good. So, when you see, look at that, the terrible mistake there. Oh, do we get it? Oh, look at that. Oh, pro play. How about that? Anyway, the Mythic dungeons are better than expected because the skill ceiling. That's pretty much the answer to the first topic, right? The other topic is actual progression, okay? Now, I said that they were going to be a source of solid progression, and it's not true whatsoever. I completed all 8 dungeons on my DK. Now, the DK you're watching is the same DK, all right? I completed all 8 dungeons on my DK, and I was in blues. All right, I was in 631 item level when we started these. I got a lot of gear throughout them. I'm all the way up to 670 something item level now. That's all from those. But it's not actually progression. Like, you don't learn anything from fights that are less than 2 minutes long. You don't. It's just a fact. So they said they were looking for an alternative route for progression, like outside of progression raidership. Failure. Big failure there. It's just not true whatsoever. Raiders raiding a boss that takes 10 minutes to kill, even on normal, and raiding a boss that takes, doing a boss that takes 2 minutes is not even close to the same. Not even close. So, no. They did not do a very good job making this an alternative concept to raiding. But the reason I still love it is because it's basically exactly what I said it wouldn't be. Back in TBC, 5-man dungeons were relevant throughout the entirety of the expansion because of justice. You know what I mean? Justice and valor points. I don't know if it was justice or valor. I don't think there was two. But anyway, the point, the token that you got was able to get you gear that was good. And because of how poorly itemized gear was in BC, you actually still could use gear from BC 5-mans. Even at the end, you know what I mean? Like the weapon in Mechanar or whatever was still really good for warrior tanks, even at the end. So, Sun Eater, right? But yeah. So this is great. If they can do this for an entire expansion, this works. This works perfectly. This is exactly what they need. Because this gear is better than raids. Like, Mythic progression raiders, now that they're going to increase the chance for Warforged gear. And if you don't know, Warforged gear is actually 705 item level in here. 20 item levels higher than the 685 that normally drops, which is nuts. That's crazy. So that's a they've successfully done that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's progression level, you know what I mean? Because it's so, there's nothing to progress on. You can either kill it or you can't. People can learn a few things, but it's usually not about the boss. It's not like, all right, let's wipe 10 times, figure out the boss, and then kill it. It's more, they can learn about their class, which I'm going to talk about as the third point. But as of the second point, I'm saying that, and this dungeon as well, Shadow Moon Burial Ground, this is a pretty nuts dungeon to do in Mythic because there's a lot of things that do a lot of damage. And if you make any mistakes, you're done. You're dead. So getting the gear to overpower it is really, really, really rewarding. And it feels just like it did in TBC. You know what I mean? Tons of noobs, tons of people who have no idea how to play their class. It's crazy. It really is crazy to come back to this type of 5-man progression. This type of 5-man atmosphere. So I'm actually pretty pleased with it. I didn't expect to be as pleased with it as I am, honestly. But I really do like it. I like the difficulty. I like the fact that, yeah, I can get through it on characters quickly. It's not necessarily healthy for the progression topic, but it works. They're back to BC difficulty, for real. And people who say, like, oh, you don't even need to CC, you wouldn't have needed to CC in BC if you actually had threat either. The mobs, if you had threat, and look how many externals I have. The right bar is my externals. I have 8 buttons bound. I have a health pot, an armor pot, a dancing rune weapon, a magic reduction, a heal increase, a massive damage reduction, a minor damage reduction, and a defensive, an active mitigation. And then I have Death Strike, which is a heal, like an active mitigation as well. So I have fucking 9 defensive CDs. In BC, Warriors had 1. And it was on a goddamn 30-minute CD. So, yeah, the game's just different, guys, okay? These dungeons are, in my opinion, these are actually harder. Mythic dungeons for the right level. But people overpower them. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. Class disparity, item level disparity. So point number 3, okay? Item level, class, and skill disparity in these 5-mans, all right? Here's the big issue. A lot of people right now are saying things like, oh, yeah, you got to be 685 to do these. Or these are impossible. I tried them. We wiped for 6 hours. The damage is way too high. Like, there's a post on MMO Champion. I was just reading through all the different complaints, quote unquote, and people are saying things like, yeah, I did the first boss in Skyreach, and it was just a mess. Like, the chakrams hit way too hard. Boss has way too much health. So if you're undergeared, it's just impossible. It's like, okay, that's one way to look at it. But the disparity is that you're just unskilled, all right? And I really want to do this. So if anybody wants to do this with me and has like 630 straight, like not maybe 635 at the highest, but definitely not higher than 640. If you guys have 630 to 640 blue challenge mode BIS tunes, let me know. Because I want to put a group together, a full 630-ish item level team, and do full 8 to 8 mythics. Just to show these people, that they're just unskilled. And I hate to say it like that because it's rude, but it's true. So, for example, one of the greatest ways to cut the disparity in half, right, the skill gap in half, and the gear gap as well, is by bringing a hunter who actually knows how to play his class. BM is absurd AoE, but that's not even what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about Glyph of Mirrored Blades, okay? Reflecting damage onto the bosses is fucking ludicrous. DKs can do it as well. So a DK tank and a hunter can pretty much carry any other players through this, regardless of their gear. All right, it's insane. Dark simming and reflecting some of the mechanics, I would definitely recommend checking that out. In fact, I think I'm going to put that spreadsheet in the description of this video for you guys, okay? So if you're new, check that out. Check out what abilities can be reflected and dark simmed. And if you do it, you will be carrying the group. Literally, especially the first boss in Skyreach. Reflecting the wind wall and the 4 winds onto the boss is probably about a 25% DPS increase. Like, it is more damage than you could actually do as a player. And it just melts the boss. And the last boss in here as well. We don't do it in this video because this was 6 months ago. But yeah, the last boss in here, if you mirrored blades and run through the bone wall, like the purple shit behind the bone wall, it just one-shots the bone wall. So you just run from side to side. You kill all 6 of the bone walls. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You got to know how to play the game. It has nothing to do with the dungeons. This is your fault. So, I feel like there's an incredible gear and skill disparity. I don't even know what word I'm trying to use at this point there. But anyway, I feel like there's an incredible skill ceiling in these. And that's what makes them so much fun. That's why I love 5-mans. So, to conclude, if you enjoy 5-man content, if you remember TBC and classic 5-man contents, congratulations, it's back. What they were trying to do, though, was trying to make an alternative to raiding, especially with the gearing process being the way it is, and they failed terribly at that. So if you're saying, like, oh, well, we don't have enough people for raiding, I only know 5 people that want to play the game with me, and I don't want to recruit, so we can't really raid. Should we do Mythic Dungeons as a guild? I mean, you could, because if you're that unskilled, you can't even find 5 more people to raid, you're probably going to have some interesting times here, but no, like, these are just challenge modes without scaling. All the mechanics are the same. There's a lot of new things in challenge modes as well, which is a big deal. A lot of people discount that, but that's a big deal. So that's that. I'm really, 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 really satisfied, especially now that they're upping the chance to get the 705 gear. This is great. This is exactly what I wanted. And the challenge, when you play the game at a high level and you understand how to play the game at a high level, you can carry. And I'm thinking about doing that for the Noobist stream. We're going to start streaming again a lot. And I'm thinking about doing streams where I just carry people through them. And it's good. It's going to be worth it because my DK he could literally carry people through. So, yeah, just learn how to play, guys. That's all the difference is. There's nothing difficult about them. And don't fucking overgear them, all right? People are like, oh, my God, I did them 703 item level. Full Mythic. Are you kidding me? Just the skill ceiling that you have as a full Mythic player. Obviously, they're not going to be a challenge. And they're not a challenge. They're not meant to be a challenge. But there's something that you can continually improve at. And 5-man content is much needed in the game. So that's my little rant on 5-man Mythics. I'm actually really satisfied with them, if you couldn't already tell. So if you guys have some opinions on that, let me know. But yeah, that's going to be that. See you guys later. And if you want to, if you want me to carry you through, man, I'll teach you how to play, man. I'll teach you how to play your class. I'll teach you how to max AoE, stuff like that. I love doing 5-mans. Challenge modes are just it's a bit too difficult because you can't outgear it. It's too difficult to carry, like, individuals through that aren't, you need a specific team to do that. But anyway, yeah, leave your battle tag in the comments if you want to do that. You want to talk about that, So that's it, man. Thanks for watching.